Hi, so I just want to talk about something real quick. And what I want to talk about is about some history for some places in Trinidad. I never did history in school. I now learning about these type of stuff. So there's always a chance that I could be wrong about the stuff that I'm saying. That's why I encouraging all you to do all your own research on your own time. Just a little heads up, I won't be reading everything from the stuff that I using. Alright, so let's jump into this. Alright, so let's start by looking at who is Angelo Bissessarsingh. Angelo Bissessarsingh was born in 1982 and died in 2017. He was a historian, author, and columnist from Trinidad and Tobago. He has a Facebook profile and he created a public Facebook group, both of which he used to share local historical information publicly for free. His Facebook group is still currently active, with his family and the members still posting content. Sometime after his death, his family purchased a preserved early 20th century house in Belmont. They repurposed the house and it serves as a tribute to his life. It is like a museum showcasing historical artifacts and rare books. It is known as the Angelo Bissessarsingh Heritage House. It has its own website where it shares additional information about the house itself, also more about Angelo and other things as well. Alright, so let's take a look at a post from Angelo's Facebook group. When you read this post from Angelo's Facebook group, you could see that Patricia Bissessar is Angelo's aunt, the sister of Angelo's father, and she was also his first primary school teacher. In the future of this video, we'll be using some of her posts from Angelo's Facebook group. Let's take a look at this post in Angelo's Facebook group from his aunt. Marine Square was created in 1784 when Port of Spain became the capital of Trinidad. The Spanish governor, Don Jose Maria Chacon, ordered the reclamation of a portion of the beachfront, which is in the south of what is now Frederick Street, and named it Plaza de Marina, which is supposed to be Spanish for Marine Square. If you didn't know, land reclamation is the process of creating new land from oceans, seas, riverbeds, or lakes. It also can be done for degraded and contaminated terrain by restoring it into functional space. After the conquest of Trinidad by the English in 1797, it was renamed Marine Square, and it was used to promote the expansion of trade and commerce in the colony. Further reclamation of the land took place during the tenure of British Governor Ralph Woodford. In 1962, when Trinidad and Tobago became an independent nation, Marine Square was renamed to Independence Square. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps showing what Marine Square looks like today. Remember that Marine Square was officially renamed to Independence Square. You can see that there's two Independence Square streets. There is a north one and there is a south one. Remember, it is said that further reclamation took place, but they didn't specify till where. Alright, so I'm going to use some stuff from the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago. This is their website. The National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago, or NATT, is basically a local government agency that preserves historical information of various types. I tried using their website, but I just find that it's hard to use. It's just not Gen Z friendly. However, you could visit their search room at 105 St. Vincent Street in Port of Spain to view their records in real life. You could also call them, fax them, or email them to view some of their records. You could pause the video to view their contact information. If you do decide to visit them, please be advised that they do have a process when it comes to ordering the records and handling the records, as well as copying the records by photocopying or scanning them, and also by using cameras to capture the records. You should also note that some of their records are not available to the public, so you should contact them beforehand by telephone or by email concerning whichever records you want to view. If it's one small piece of information that you're looking for, it would probably be best for you to contact them by phone or by email for it. You should also note that whatever records you get from them, it is protected by the copyright laws, so you will need their permission to publish it. If you still decide to visit them, here are their opening and closing hours. On your own time, you could view their using the collection part of their website for more information about accessing, viewing, and publishing their records. Anyways, they have their own Facebook page where they post different types of of historical records, such as vintage newspapers and old maps. Alright, so let's take a look at a Facebook post from the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago. Here's a photo from around 1891 of South Quay. For some reason, this word is pronounced as Quay and not Quay, but guess what? I'm going to say Quay. Anyways, we're looking at the photo from left to right. The building at the left in the photo is the old customs house. The next thing that you will see is the Trinidad government railway tracks. I think that these are also the carts that go on the railway tracks. You can also see St. Vincent Street as well as the St. Vincent Wharf. And finally, you could see the trading houses at the right in the image. Towards the end of the 19th century, there was land that was reclaimed west of St. Vincent Street to expand the St. Vincent Wharf and lower Port of Spain. Here you can notice that at the very end of St. Vincent Street there is the seawater, and that there are boats on the seawater not too far away from the street. This is what the end of St. Vincent Street looks like today. Notice that the sea is close by, but it is not at the end of St. Vincent Street. You could pause the video and compare the two images. Alright, so now we'll take a look at something that Angelo wrote back in 2013. He was writing about the history of Corbeaux Town. Until the Port of Spain Harbour, which was reclaimed in the 1930s, the sea approach was very shallow, necessitating the landing of passengers and goods at a wooden jetty called St. Vincent Wharf because it ran into St. Vincent Street. To the west of the jetty was a low mudflat which had a sandy beach. A mudflat is a coastal wetland that forms in areas like bays, where silt, clay, and sand may settle. They are submerged at high tide and exposed during low tide. This area became quite populated in the 1830s after emancipation as a place for fishermen and boat builders. The beach was also the place where the people of the city would come and haggle with the fishermen in their boats for the catch. The fish would then be taken on a wooden tray on the heads of female French merchants. Naturally, the scent of the gutted fish attracted the birds, which gave the area its name, as they were described in 1847 by C.W. Day. The streets are kept very clean, and a species of buzzard or carrion vulture, erroneously called corbeau or crow, are the authorized scavengers. These birds, which are black and as large as young turkeys, have long, gawky legs, keen eyes, and iron-gray cowl covering their necks, which gives them a ludicrous resemblance to baristas in costume. Around 1900, a roadway was extended through the area, cutting across Lower Sackville Street. It was named after its engineer, Walsh Wrightson. Corbeaux Town continued much unchanged until the 1920s. A small concrete storage bin looking like a medieval keep was erected at the water's edge. It belonged to William Pettigrew Humphrey, who was an early local cinema pioneer. The last days of Corbeaux Town came in 1936 to 1938, when a young and dynamic city engineer named Ranjit Kumar decided to turn Wrightson Road into a dual carriageway, which necessitated the reclamation of the swampy land between Walsh Wrightson's original route and the sea. The extension of Wrightson Road was largely completed by 1939 and fully so by 1940. Alright, so now we'll take a look at this Facebook post from Angelo's group. It basically explains how they reclaimed the land. A 3,300-foot wall was constructed from the western end of Marine Square. Remember that Marine Square was officially renamed to Independence Square. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps of that area. Two parallel rows of steel piles were driven into the seafloor. Steel piles are used to retain soil, exclude water, and stabilize foundations during sea reclamation projects. They interlock with one another and are directly driven into the seafloor. From between the two pilings, water and the seabed material was removed and replaced by cement. Pilings are basically the same thing as piles. The area outside of the wall was then dredged to a depth of 30 feet at low tide, providing over 6 million cubic feet of material, which was then moved to the other side of the wall in order to build up the reclaimed land area back towards the old shoreline. Dredging is the removal of sand, sediment, or debris from the bottom of a body of water. The material is then taken and moved moved to another area. The new reclaimed area behind the wall comprised of about 160 acres of land between Marine Square and Mokarapo Point, which is close to the southwest of Woodbrook. Okay, so to my understanding, this is how it was done. Thick singular sheets of steel piles are placed next to each other so that they interlock with one another to form a continuous wall. These are the two rows of the steel piles. This is where everything is. You have seawater here and you have the land over here. There's also seawater in between the two rows of steel pilings. The seawater was taken out from in between them. Cement was placed in between the two rows of steel pilings and it hardened over time. They would have taken seafloor material from over here and carried it over into this area. They also would have taken other materials from different sources to fill in the area to form the new land. Alright, so you could also check out this Facebook post. It's basically the same thing that we just read. In this Facebook post, they included a photo. This is the picture that they included. Take a look at the building over here. That's Humphrey's Film Vault. Pay attention to where the seawater ends and where the buildings are. I used PixArt's AI to enhance the image, and this was the result. You could rotate your device and pause the video to have a better look at it. I also used the Nano Banana AI on Pixelbin to enhance the image that was previously enhanced as well as to colorize it. Here's the result that it gave me. You could rotate your device and pause the video to have a better look at it. Here's a side-by-side view of the images. Remember that it was AI that was used to enhance it, so it's possible for it to have flaws and imperfections. For instance, if you look over here, it appears that here is a roof, but the colorized version showing like if it's grass instead of the roof. I don't think that it had grass on the roof in the original photo. I just feel like it's an error from the AI. There could possibly be more errors, but I just not seeing them right now. Anyways, this is how the area looks like today where Humphrey's Film Vault is located in Port of Spain. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps of where Humphrey's Film Vault is in Port of Spain. Alright, so I found this post on Angelo's Facebook group. This post was the reason why I decided to enhance and colorize the image. Anyways, the person said that the house in the middle of the frame is still there today on the corner of Sackville Street in Port of Spain. So this is the house that they're talking about. This is the image that I enhanced and colorized. I just zoomed up on it. Okay, so I did a rough sketch of the building. It's definitely not 100% accurate. The white lines represent the roofing. The blue lines represent the walls. See if you could understand what I'm trying to show you. Alright, so now I'll show you how the building looks like today on Street View on Google Maps. Credit to this person who did the Street View photos. Okay, so this is what the building looks like today. The angle of the building in this screenshot is more or less the same angle of the building in the vintage photo. It also appears that this building is still here today. I think that over here might be a gate. If it is the same building, then this green building is what it looks like today. This area looks like it's the area where I thought a gate was in the vintage photo. Credit to this person for taking the 360 degrees photo. Alright, so we'll be taking a look at this Facebook post from Angelo's Facebook group with the comment of Don Jose Maria Chacon as the governor of the island. Port of Spain was confirmed as the capital in 1784. The St. Anne's River was known as the Rio Tragarete or Rio Santa Ana in Spanish. The river flowed from its source in the upper reaches of Fondes Amandes straight through the town and flooded every rainy season. The river was diverted to a new course which ran easternly just below the Lavantil Hills and then to the sea. It took 4.5 years to divert the river and was completed in 1787 by slave workers. A huge chasm was dug from a point which later became known as Belmont and followed a line determined by Chacon. Afterwards, the St. Anne's River was diverted to its new bed and the old one was gradually filled in and turned into prime real estate. Chacon Street in Port of Spain marks the site of part of the old channel. Over the years, the stream became known as the Dry River. Later in the 1940s, it would be called the East Dry River after the paving of the Maraval River. The riverbanks were eroding rapidly and threatening properties as well as Piccadilly Street, which ran alongside its course. The paving of the river was completed in 1934 and still holds strong today. Alright, so now let's take a short look at this post from Angelo's Facebook group. On Observatory Street in Port of Spain, there's a hospice. The hospice has been a landmark of of the Belmont/East Dry River area for over 165 years. The hospice was previously referred to as the Spacapietra Asylum. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps of where that hospice is located in Port of Spain. Here is what the front entrance of the hospice looks like on Street View on Google Maps. Okay, so now let's look at this post from Angelo's Facebook group. The St. Anne's River ran its course as far as the hospice on Observatory Street in Port of Spain. It turned west and ran across Park Street and then along Frederick Street. It then ran across Woodford Square and then along Chacon Street, where at the end of the street it finally flowed into the sea. Here are some photos of the St. Anne's River that he included in his Facebook post. Alright, so now we'll take a look at the photos in this Facebook post from the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago. Here's a photo of the St. Anne's River around the 1950s. Here are two photos of the St. Anne's River around the 1890s. Okay, so the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago posted on their Facebook page 3 old maps of Port of Spain. This one is a 1845 map. This one is a 1964 map. This one is a 1981 map. I also found a better view of the 1845 map of Port of Spain on the Instagram page of the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago. I found this 1837 map of part of Port of Spain from an online website. I found this 1927 map of Port of Spain online. I also found this 1935 map of Port of Spain from a website. There is also some additional stuff that I want to share with you all. So I just want to share something that happened recently. On the 5th of June 2026, I sent an email to the National Library and Information System Authority. In that email, I basically asked them if there were any type of paintings that showed the face of Cazabon. On the 9th of June 2026, one of the staff members responded and sent this to me. I was also notified that this information is in the public domain so that I could use it, but I must give the proper credit as to where I got it from. You could look at the text above to see the source as to where this photo came from. Here's a closer look at the painting of Cazabon that was included in the newspaper article. Alright, so the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago posted on their Facebook page about Michel Jean Cazabon. Take note of the date when they posted it. Michel Jean Cazabon was born in 1813, which is 213 years ago. He is regarded as Trinidad's first great painter. He became famous internationally as an artist who was renowned for his paintings of Trinidad's sceneries, as well as his portraits of people during the 19th century. He was sent to Paris during the 1830s to study medicine, but instead focused on art. His artworks were exhibited in Paris, Italy, and the United Kingdom. He settled in Trinidad where he taught art. In 1888, he died. Here's a painting that they included from Cazabon. This is a painting that he did of Corbeaux Town. The references suggest that this was done in 1857. I also found like a lighter version of the painting on another website. I also found this other painting that he did of Corbeaux Town. However, this is the only website that I found it from. Here are the side-by-side images of Cazabon's artworks of Corbeaux Town. Cazabon did a lot of other paintings as well. His paintings can help us to understand what Trinidad looked like in the olden days. His paintings aren't limited to the Port of Spain area alone. He painted views from other places as well. For now, let's take a look at some of his paintings in the Port of Spain area. This is a painting that he did of the view of Port of Spain from Fort George. I also found this other one that he did. Here are both of them next to each other. Let's look at where Fort George is located. The red pin shows where Fort George is located in Port of Spain. This is a closer look at Fort George. Let's take a look at a 360 degrees photo of the view from Fort George. Credit to this person for taking the 360 degrees photo. Okay, so the first thing that you would see are the mountains and the Queen's Park Savannah. And then you could see the city area as well as where the seawater meets the land. Now you could see like an overview of the area. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps showing the current view of Port of Spain from Fort George. This is the same view but from a wider angle. Over here is the movie town area. Here are the side-by-side view of Cazabon's paintings and the modern-day view of Port of Spain from Fort George. One of the notable differences is where the mountain ends. Also, doesn't the mountain look a bit shorter? Another thing that you could notice is the distance of the Queen's Park Savannah from the sea. The savannah is more further away from the sea today than it was before. Cazabon also painted the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, which is a Catholic church. You could notice that there's like a beach next to the church. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps of where that church is located in Port of Spain today. Here's a closer look at where the church is located on Google Maps. This is what it looks like using Street View on Google Maps. Notice that there's no type of natural body of water next to the church. Here's a side-by-side view of the church from Cazabon's painting and a modern-day view of the church from Google Maps. Alright, so now let's look at another painting from Cazabon. This is a painting that he did of the Trinity Church in Port of Spain. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps of where that church is located in Port of Spain today. Here's a 360 degrees photo from Google Maps of that church today. Credit to this person for taking the 360 degrees photo. Here's a side-by-side view of Cazabon's painting of the Trinity Church and a modern-day view of it from Google Maps. Let's look at another painting that Cazabon did. Before we do that, let's take a short look at this Facebook post from Angelo's Facebook group about Fort San Andres. In 1855, it was said that the old sea fort which formerly existed at King's, now Queen's Wharf, may be numbered among the things that were. Using this 1964 map of Port of Spain from the National Archives of Trinidad and Tobago, we can see the Queen's Wharf area. Here's a closer look at it. Just remember that if you're looking throughout the timeline, it might not be in this exact area. Alright, so this is Cazabon's painting of King's Wharf, which then became Queen's Wharf. This Facebook post from Angelo's Facebook group said that Cazabon painted it in 1850 and that Fort Andres and the lighthouse which are seen in the painting are still there today. I don't think that this colorized version of the painting is accurate. Using this 1837 map of part of Port of Spain from the Caribbean History Archives, we can see where the fort is located. Here's a closer look at the map. If you look over here, you will see the number 12. And then if you look over here, you will see that the number 12 represents the fort. Reading from the same Facebook post that talked about the renaming of the Queen's Wharf, it says that the original blockhouse is no longer there. That's this castle looking part here. Here are two photos that were included in the Facebook post. Alright, so we'll take a short look at this post from Angelo's Facebook group. This 1889 photo shows the original fort. The small building at the very right in the photo by the cannons is the fort area. The fort is marooned inland with its wall, artillery, and Spanish-era barracks. The buildings at the right in the back of the photo are merchant houses on Independence Square. So the area in front of the curved wall in the direction where the cannons are pointed was once the sea. Not gonna lie, I had to use ChatGPT to identify where the fort was in the painting. If I had zoomed up, I probably would have noticed the cannons, and then after seeing these two photos, I probably would have been able to piece it together. Anyways, here's a screenshot from Google Maps of Fort San Andres today. The fort is also known today as the City of Port of Spain Museum. Here's a screenshot from Google Maps showing the location of the lighthouse in Port of Spain today, as well as a closer look at the fort. Here's a look at the lighthouse on Street View on Google Maps. Here's a recent bird's eye view of the fort and the lighthouse. I'm not sure, but I think the point of view in Cazabon's painting would have been from somewhere around here, in this general area. Credit to this person for taking the 360 degrees photo. Here's a side-by-side view of Cazabon's painting and a modern day overview overview of the area from Google Maps. Here's a painting that Cazabon did of the view of Port of Spain from the sea. Just ignore the typo on the website. If you zoom in on the painting, you could see the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. You could also see the lighthouse, and I think that this is Fort San Andres, because looking at this post from Angelo's Facebook group and comparing it to Cazabon's painting, it looks quite similar. In both of them, you could see that type of arched walkway or doorway by the middle of the building. You could also notice the similar locations for the windows and or doorway. There is also the pole, which looks like it's in the same location for both of them. You could also notice the curved wall by the cannons. Although you can't really see the cannons in Cazabon's painting, it also is just knowing the fact that the fort is near the lighthouse, and that building in Cazabon's painting looks like it's in the area where the fort is. And then also you could see part of the Trinity Cathedral. I don't have a photo to show you the modern day view of Port of Spain from the sea. However, we can use this 360 degrees photo from Google Maps as the next best thing. It appears that the photo was taken on a boat. Here is where the lighthouse is located today. Here also is where Fort San Andres is located today. Here is where the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception is located today. Here is where the Trinity Cathedral is located today. It's where you're seeing all those trees in the middle of the screen. Here is like an overview of the area. Here's a side-by-side view of Cazabon's painting and a modern day view from Google Maps of Port of Spain from the sea. So yes, part of Port of Spain was formed by humans. It is not a part of the natural formation of our land. Here's a sped up video from Google Maps showing what the Port of Spain area looks like today. On your own time, you could go on Google Maps and check out this area, comparing the current Port of Spain to the olden Port of Spain in the vintage maps, as well as from Cazabon's paintings. There are also more places in the Port of Spain area where land reclamation have taken place, such as the Movie Town area, as well as the Sea Lots area. There are also other areas in Trinidad where land reclamation have taken place. For instance, recently over here in the San Fernando area, land reclamation took place. Here also looks like it was recently filled in. There is a lot more stuff that I could try to research to share with y'all. However, this video is getting too long, so I'm not going to be sharing much more new information in this video. Alright, so now I'm going to give you a list of videos that you could watch on YouTube. You could watch these two YouTube videos in the order that I listed them in. In this video, the person briefly spoke about parts of the land in Port of Spain that was once water. He also briefly spoke about the redirection of the East Dry River. In this video, he talked more about the construction dates of some of the buildings in Port of Spain. He also spoke about Corbeaux Town, but he basically said the same things that I said in this video. In both of these videos, the person also spoke about other stuff. You could also watch this YouTube video. In this video, the person spoke about some of the history in Port of Spain, and he even showed some of the areas that was once sea. He said when they were digging down to lay the foundations for the central bank building, they struck water. He also mentioned that he was told that there are pumps in the basement of the central bank building which is used to pump out water even till today. On this video, somebody commented that they could verify that there is water underneath the central bank building, that there is a reservoir below the central bank building as well as the library building. An underground water reservoir or aquifer is a large natural storage of fresh water found beneath the surface of the earth. They are not hollow underground lakes or rivers. These reservoirs are vast porous layers of rock, sand and gravel that are completely saturated with water like a giant sponge. I don't think that all underground water reservoirs are with fresh water, so I don't know if it is fresh water that is underneath the central bank building as well as the library building. He also said that there's a red fire hydrant on the Abercrombie Street side of the library that gets its water from the reservoir. The person in the video also mentioned that there's another type of land reclamation. one that doesn't involve the sea. This type of land reclamation happens when you fill in low-lying areas. He mentioned that in areas like Debe and Rosilak, this type of land reclamation took place. However, I don't know the exact areas in those places where the land reclamation took place. Here's another video that you could check out from the same person. In this video, he showed some of the historical sites in Porta, Spain, and explained how some of the water was transported throughout the city. He has more videos such as these two where he speaks more about the history of Porta, Spain. You could take a browse through his YouTube channel. He has some other videos where he shares some of the history of some of the places in Trinidad and Tobago. You could also watch these two YouTube videos in the order that I listed them in. Both of them contains more information of the painter Cazabon as well as more information about his artwork. Alright, so that's about it for this video, and anyways people, Jesus bless.